Welcome to the Henderson Teams Podcast, a place where you can stay up to date on what's happening around campus, as well as joining Pastor Nick and the team to dive deeper into the weekend message. New episodes drop on Mondays. Make sure to click the subscribe button below to be notified as soon as it's available. We're glad you're here. Now let's dive in.
What's up, everybody? Welcome back. We are now at episode number 9, sort of. I'm going to call it episode 9 because that bonus thing that I released last week that was inviting people to First Step kind of messed up the episode numbering system.
So we're just going right to 9.
This is the 8th real podcast, but you're at episode number 9. And for those of you who listen to that 2-minute beauty inviting you to First Step, you're with me on number 9, so we're all good.
Love it.
Want to introduce a few people to you. We have a new guest today with us. Talked to the agent, lined it all up, got him with us. It's a guest speaker. His name is Jason Cho. What's up, Cho?
Hello.
Cho is the man, literally. He leads our high school kids. He's been around since 2014 and a half.
2008 is when I started coming to Central.
Oh, staffy.
But staff since 2016.
That's cute.
What about that high school internee role that you were in?
Oh, that was probably around the 14.
I mean, I know I'm dragging this out a little bit, but here's my earliest memory of Jason Cho. I've just recently returned to Las Vegas, the city of lights, and I came into the church and I saw Jason Cho being drugged into the theater by about, 8 to 10 students. And he was like saying, no, 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 and like really upset. And I'm trying to figure out what's going on. And so I kind of follow this mob in there. And he gets pulled on the stage and tasered in front of everybody.
Oh my gosh.
Wow.
Do you remember that?
Probably not.
Yeah, I try to psychologically repress that, but thanks for pulling the Band-Aid off. It's been a long recovery journey, and it's a place where it's okay not to be okay.
Amen.
But whatever it takes to reach the street youths.
Isn't that fun that that's literally the first time I met you?
I think that's when God revealed to you that we're going to be doing life together with that guy.
Yeah. It was like, this guy has an electrifying personality.
Wow.
So that's Jason Cho. Returning to the podcast is my beautiful wife, Ariel.
Hi.
She's here to keep us on track, and really she prevents us from saying anything weird.
Or inappropriate.
Yeah, any rabbit trails.
Preventing's not the right word.
So always appreciate your wisdom and insight. She's smarter than me, so
It's not true.
It's good to have you around. And then our illustrious leader, the virtuous, the strong, the incredible, our leader through and through, the one who leads us into the black.
Yeah, this is good.
That is Henderson location pastor, Nick Bodine. What's up, Nick?
Thank you. That's awesome. I want to meet that guy you just described.
He's the best. We've got a few people off camera today. We've got DJ Travis pushing the knobs, pulling the buttons. DJ, give us your best DJ horn. There it is. My boy Matt Blevins does the DJ horn every Monday night to remind me that he knows about it. So what's up, Matt? And then we got Kevin Devs in the background working on the spreadsheets. Hello. So the whole team's here. Everybody's a part. We love being here. We love joining you. And as always, we're going to start off our first segment with letting our location pastor let us all in on the big secret of the week, which is, what do we really need to know right now? What's that thing you got to know?
That one thing right now over the next 4 or 5 weeks that we really want everybody to know is that we're doing a really awesome run up to Easter. And so we're going to really take this season to help highlight each location's Easter times and really try to get a lot of our church to move off of Easter Sunday. You know, if they only have Easter Sunday, obviously we'll want to see them there, but try to move them to either Friday night, we have an experience then at Henderson, or on Saturday at one of the 3 times on Saturday. But obviously if Sunday's the only day that works, we'd still love to see people come on Sunday, but nonetheless, we're trying to open up seats for brand new people showing up to the location on Sunday morning. We're also going to be pushing to invite friends and to sign up to serve at Easter. So since this is a volunteer podcast, what's the one thing you got to know and that you could be doing is as you see new people join the team, make them feel accepted, make them feel like they belong, help them out, point them in the right direction, help create friendships, because we all know we could use more help, more people on the team. It is a big city, and we just want to capitalize this moment where there will be new people signing up to serve at Easter, and hopefully tie them up and force them to serve every single weekend with us.
That's my church.
I love my church. Yes.
Or just motivate them to give them such a great experience that they want to come back.
And that is awesome. And I'm sure we'll have more to come over these weeks. We'll probably highlight the different little behind the scenes, early access tidbits on what's going on with Easter. So we won't do too many spoilers right now. But I mean, really, we're going to be trying to have our team rallied around that idea. Show up on Friday or Saturday and help serve on Sunday. And that is the way that you as a volunteer can make the biggest impact on Easter this year. Amen, Cho?
Amen.
Sweet. Well, without any further ado, let's dive into the meat of the podcast. My favorite segment. It's that segment called Going Deeper.
Oh my goodness.
So this is when we go deeper into the sermon of the weekend. And this past weekend, guest speaker, Herbert Cooper. He was awesome. And what'd you guys think? What'd you think of the Coops?
Well, first, I feel like we need our ad.
Oh, yeah. What is this week sponsored by? Well, this week is sponsored by
Campbell's Soup Company. Soup so good you'll want to sell your birthright.
Good.
Such a good tagline.
Birthright good.
Such a
love that.
great transition into Pastor Herbert's message, all on don't settle for soup when God's got steak. Which, before we got going on this podcast, we kind of bantered, and I feel like we should kind of give them a little of that before we actually go deeper. We were bantering on, did Pastor Herbert offend vegetarians in the room?
Yeah, right. Holding up steak above his hand triumphantly, I would say.
Or did they just, they're like, oh, I don't get it. I would go for the soup, what kind of soup is that? So we were talking like, don't settle for soup when God's got what? Like, what are some, like, what's something that Pastor Herbert could have held up for each one of you in this room that you would have been like, yeah, that's it. Because it might not be steak for everyone.
Right. For Cho's generation, it would be don't settle for soup when God's got avocado toast, y'all.
$10.99 plus tax.
Right.
And don't forget the tip. Yeah. It's very expensive.
Avocado toast, is that the thing, Cho?
Yeah, a lot of people like it.
That's like the 5 years ago hipster thing.
Yeah. It's got like a lot of good fats.
Yeah.
Good cholesterol.
Yeah. I like avocado toast personally. I don't know that would have been like the home run for me over soup, but
Sure. When God's got, what do you think, babe? For you, it'd be sushi.
Yeah. But like the vegetarian version would be maybe iced coffee.
Oh, right. Because like raw slices of fish doesn't help the offensive piece.
Yeah.
Good point. When God's got tofu.
yeah.
Doesn't rhyme.
Too much?
Yeah, it doesn't roll off the tongue.
Yeah. When God's got cake.
Ooh, cake. I mean,
cake.
that seems safe, I would think.
Most people like cake. I know there's different ways you can prepare a cake, but we're not getting into that. We're just saying overall, in general, who doesn't like cake?
Yeah, we accept all denominations of cake.
Sure, I agree.
Yeah.
That's
So,
Okay.
anyways,
Yeah.
you guys can think about it. Shoot us your ideas. Hit us up on social media.
Make us some cake.
Let us know if you're offended or not. It's always fun to know.
You can use you can tag at don't cho no. Is that what it is?
Don't Joe know.
J Cho, you know.
J Cho, don't you know?
Yep. Let me know if you're offended, and I will work on fixing that for you.
He's great at it too.
And
That's
all
killer.
right. So now
what
we're
do you
ready
guys
to dive
think
deeper.
of the actual thing, the sermon.
I thought the message was incredible, and I wrote so many notes in my Bible, which is in the other room. So I'm going to do a quick step away from the
little
mic.
pop out?
Yep.
Maybe
That's great.
Travis can go get it.
Oh, DJ Travis is gonna get it. Thanks, DJ. Well, let's start off with Ariel. Then you always have good thoughts.
Why is it always me first?
Well, we as we've said in the past, we think Ariel's the most organized, the most well structured in her notes. Like we actually recently sent our notes from this sermon actually to somebody like, hey, do you have those notes on you? So we shot them, and I was embarrassed a little bit. Ariel's was on an iPad, color-coded, formatted, underlined, bolded. There was like a structure to it. Mine was scratched on a piece of paper. That it just didn't look pretty, but anyway.
Jason's the avid note taker.
Oh, you stop.
Just a little heads up.
Good to know.
Okay. Anyway, okay. So he had 3 main points of when we settle. 3?
Yeah, 3.
Yeah. And the one that I felt he was preaching right to me was we settle when we're tired. The main point that I pulled out of there that I have capitalized and underlined says, when you're tired, don't counsel yourself. Surround yourself with God's people and God's presence.
That's good.
Like, I know from my experience that anytime I've tried to get through situations by just relying on myself or trying to figure out on my own, that it's never as effective, nor does it make me feel helped or healthy, as when I go to God in prayer, look for biblical truths to help my situation, and then surround myself with people that are going to give me like advice from a God-centered place.
Yeah.
That makes sense. So yeah, that was my major takeaway. And I have an application I'll share later in that part of the podcast as to what I started doing to help with that on a daily basis.
And I feel like that one, which I want to get to the other 2 here in a second, but just to like kind of hone in on that first point that he made out of his 3 points, we settle when we're tired. I know I'm going through the same thing. I think for the most part, maybe around Central, like, although all 3 of these are really good, and probably a lot of, we struggle with all 3 of them. But if anything, I think this tired one like hits home for most people. Mm-hmm. I think we, everything from marriages that might feel, broken. We feel like when he says settle in a marriage that is feeling broken, what he's saying is that you're going to settle with just giving up on the marriage. What he's not saying is that you already did settle, so get out. Pastor Herbert is saying what would be the wrong thing to do is then to just give up on the marriage and not stay in it and not fight for it and not work for it because you're tired. Like, the easier thing would be to do is to step out of it. Or, you're single, and so you're going to settle on the first option that comes your way. You're tired in your job, and instead of praying about, hey God, what do you have for my future? Do I commit to this and continue to try to succeed, or is there my next step? Whatever that is, I can't kind of reemphasize enough that I think a lot of us are going through this. This was really good timing. This time of year seems busy and hectic, and it was on time change weekend. So how awesome that we were all already tired when he said that. Yeah. But I don't know. I just think it's something a lot of people are dealing with, and it's just good to hear, like, don't give up. Keep getting back to church. Surround yourself with just God's people, and then put yourself in his presence daily.
Other random thought that he didn't really touch on, but I was just kind of reminded, is how important rest is, and that God created us to rest. Like, he created a day of rest, and this is why, because as Pastor Herbert said, when we're tired, we make bad choices. We let people take advantage of us, and you can't think clearly. And so it's so important to make that a priority. In our culture, it's like rest is almost like, oh, you're a wimp for taking a day off. Like, everyone's grinding so hard, and if you don't, then you're not of the same caliber as everybody else. But that's not true. Like, God made it so that we need rest and we need to rely on him. So I did think about that.
Yeah, no,
that's great. And I was hitting on that note as well. I think some other studies that have been in and around lately have been around that idea of rest as well. And I think a scripture that comes to play in this as well is, of course, we've got to structure our days. We got to follow the example of God and find rest. But then, of course, there's this scripture from Matthew 11 when Jesus said, "Come to me, all you are weary and carry heavy burdens, and I will give you rest. Take my yoke upon you and let me teach you, because I am humble and gentle at heart, and you will find rest for your souls. For my yoke is easy to bear, and my burden I give you is light." And yeah, to me, that just like cries out like, yes, I need to watch myself and create rest. But to a point. Like I can't just rely on, when I try to rely on just my own schedule management, I suppose, to try to think I'm going to find rest, I'm always going to fall short unless I'm diving in scripturally and surrounding myself with Jesus and taking his rest upon me and get the soul rest. And I think that's a good piece as well. And yeah. What do you think, Cho?
Yeah, it actually reminds me of something that Jeff Kiwanuka, the junior high pastor, shout out
Jeff,
shared last week in a Devo when he was talking about like God created everything in 6 days, and on the seventh day he rested, but he actually created on all 7 days because he created rest on that seventh day.
That's good.
And I think that's so important for us to remember, just with the busyness of life, and we're in spring, so kids got sports, families are running crazy, there's a lot going on, but man, if we can't find that moment of quiet, we're missing a lot that God wants to show.
That's so true.
And I know for me, like sometimes when I hear rest, it's like back in the day I would escape into like video games because it was just mindless. So it was like that could be an escape. Or I know, several people, it's like, hey, I'm just going to Netflix binge, right? Like I don't have to think, I can just watch. And all of those are like good forms of rest, just having a day off. But don't forget to surround yourself in God's presence. I mean, that's where you're going to truly find rest. It really leads us into our next one. When we rest with Netflix or rest in other ways, we're settling for instant gratification, which was his second point.
You're really convicting me right now.
Yeah,
I Netflix a lot.
I gotta get rid of my Xbox after this podcast.
And I think it's important. Like I do the same. Like I'll escape into a movie, a TV show, something mindless, because sometimes I just am trying to get my mind off of it. But we shouldn't be trading it instead of putting ourselves in God's presence first. And
that's good.
That doesn't have to be like 8 hours. That doesn't have to be an hour. It doesn't have to be all day. It's really up to you, and you really feel like you've put yourself before God and had that time. There's not a prescribed time, but if you're looking for a day of rest, I'd almost start with that, so that a whole day doesn't go by of just mindlessness, and you never gave him a chance to put you and give you that rest.
Yeah, he posed a couple of questions. Pastor Herbert said, what would your future self tell you now? And I think back in my 20s, like my early 20s, of all the instant gratification choices that I made, knowing I wanted something different or better for myself. 10 years. Like that's not a long time from 20 to 30, although it feels like it when you're 20. So definitely over this week, think about, where you're at. Like what would your future self tell you? What would your future job tell you? What would your future grandkids or your future spouse tell you about the decisions you're making right now?
When it was like, what would your future kids tell you? I was like,
I know, that's the one.
That crushes me. And I love the point. I'm sorry if somebody else wrote this down, but don't give up on what you want most for what you want right now.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Like just that one smacked me. Like how many times do I do that? Like instead of focusing on what I want most. Like I tell myself all the time, like I want to raise kids that just look back and be like, Dad was there, intentional, committed.
That's good.
And then, I'll have a day where I just want a night away from the kids. I want a babysitter. I want to.
Here's your iPad.
I love them. Most of the time I'm in it, but sometimes I'm just so tired. Maybe that's why we're settling for instant gratification, because we're also, to point one, tired.
And the wheel of urgency is always there. Like this is urgent now. This is urgent now. Then I can get into my routine. But then the urgency never goes away.
Yeah.
If everything's urgent.
Absolutely right.
And nothing is. That's awesome. I know another piece that he hit on, we were talking about earlier, is, God is referred to as the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob often throughout the Old Testament and into the New Testament. The apostles, Jesus used that idea of God, the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. So Esau and Jacob, this story right here of the selling the birthright for the soup, that does a couple funny things to that dynamic. And Pastor Cooper talked about it could have been Abraham, Isaac, and Esau, and that's kind of like a weird thought for me at first. I'm like, oh wait, Esau, he murdered that guy. That's kind of messed up. But I don't know. The more I was thinking about it, there's a lot of things that come with that, and this is kind of what I landed on. You got Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, the God of, like, that association kind of makes you initially feel like, okay, so those were the good guys. Esau was the bad guy. He could have been the good guy. But, like, think of this specific story even. Like, Jacob is this little trickster who's kind of screwing his brother out of this blessing just because he's taking advantage of the situation. So it's not really as simple as, like, who are the good guys and the bad guys. And I think that that's kind of one of the big themes that I catch on to and make me feel uplifted, like hopefully not in a bad way. But all of these heroes of Scripture have major flaws, major character flaws, Jacob included. And I think God put that in the Word and made that clear so that we know, like, you can't feel that your flaws are going to prevent you from being a big part of His story. So don't let, like, the past haunt you. Don't let a bad decision or a stumble haunt you. Like, God chooses to use those types of people so that His name will be glorified, and that we're not looking to the obvious heroes and we're not lifting up people in place of God. So anyway, I don't know if you guys, like, thought about anything in that little thing, but, like, I kind of see it from both ways. Like, oh, it's true. It could have been Abraham, Isaac, and Esau. But on the other hand, I'm like, Jacob wasn't that great either.
Yeah, absolutely. and what he, in case anybody, as you're hearing Pastor Herbert on this point, it was point 3, which is we settle because we don't see the future blessing. So
Right.
His big thought around this is that if Esau could have seen what he was trading for a bowl of soup, he probably would have just suppressed the hangry feeling and just, not made that deal. And so, so many times, because we can't see our future blessing, because we can't see what God has in store for us, which, is an element of faith. Like, you got to have faith in God in your future. And if you can have faith there, even though you can't see it, that by committing to it and not giving up and staying strong and not trading for instant gratification or just because you're tired, that your future blessing will be so much greater than what you can get right now. So, he really harped on, or he just dropped the bomb of, like, Acts 7:32. I think the way he said it was supposed to be Esau, not Jacob. You could hear it as it could have been Esau, not Jacob, but yet God still uses people in their flaws. God still uses people, that mess up. Just because you might have settled in the past doesn't mean that God still doesn't have a greater blessing for your future. In fact, God probably could have still had a great future for Esau, even though he traded for a bowl of soup, but Esau kind of, he spun out after that. He did not do well after he felt like he got tricked out of his birthright.
I love what you're saying, Nick. I think it resonates a lot with me, and especially this idea, like, we settle because we don't see the future blessing. And I think of things like when we're inviting people to, let's say, Easter at Central. It could just be like, especially if you've been around Central for a while, it's just like, oh, it's another Easter. I've invited everyone I know, so I guess I don't have anyone else to invite. But if God wants me to invite someone, He'll bring someone across my path. But I had a really cool opportunity to celebrate and see this in action in my own life. I invited my HOA lady to Christmas at Central a couple months back, and she actually came, saved her some seats. She brought her aunt and her daughter, and she made a decision to name Jesus the leader and forgiver of her life that night when Judd did draw the net. So I was like, that's incredible. Then a couple days later on Christmas Eve, she said, hey, do you by any chance have any more of those Christmas experiences? And I was like, oh, honey, if you only knew. We've got 4 today. We got 4. Let me know which one you want to come to, and I'll save you some seats. So she brought the rest of her family. But then she, like, jumped into First Step, and we just had that First Step graduation a couple days ago. And it was so cool because she made the decision to get baptized. And I'm just looking at, like, how fast her life is moving, like how radically God is transforming her. And it's because of this whole idea, you know, that I didn't settle. I could have easily talked myself out of it because I'd actually invited her before, but she had lost my number. But in my mind, I thought, well, maybe she was being polite and didn't really want to come to church. But I I thought, well, it's Christmas. Everyone wants to do something for Christmas. So
Yeah.
I went back in, and she was like, oh my gosh, I'm so glad you're here. I lost your number. I forgot your last name. I was hoping somehow we would get connected again.
Oh, that's awesome. And a cool part of this story, like just totally God at work, is I got reached out to through maybe it was my text message. No, it was Instagram. By her.
Oh.
Her telling me,
Yeah.
hey, I want to, where she had just said, we're really contemplating taking a next step in baptism this weekend. And I'm like, ooh, I'm not going to let her just sit there and contemplate it. Like I'm leading her over the line.
Yeah.
Let's do it. Let's get baptized. So I'm like, well, can the team and I get you baptized this weekend? Love to, if that's too much of a rush, understand, but would love to just go ahead and get you baptized. And she said, just I'm struggling through some things. I don't know why I'm having some fear here. So I could tell like this is one, like she needs a little extra time to talk about it this weekend. And so I was hosting. I knew I wouldn't be able to help her on that weekend. Was that this last weekend? It might have been, but yeah, this last Saturday. So I was, so I reached out to Ariel and just said, hey, is there any way that you can set up Cho to connect with her and just kind of help explain baptism and walk her through this, her fears, not knowing that Cho was the one that invited her, led her to Christ. Wow. And, just what better person to now walk her through baptism and baptize her. Like, just
yeah, it gets even crazier because then when Ariel reached out to me, I called her and we had like this 45-minute conversation just about some kind of preconceived notion she had coming into faith and with things moving so fast. And I was just like, oh no, like this is a journey for all of us. Know that like you don't have to be perfect to get baptized. This is your declaration. This is you saying you're all in.
Yep.
And then she was like almost tearing up and she said, can I tell you something? And I'm like, at this point, tell me anything. Like, I think we're best buds right now. You want to do karate in the garage?
Build bunk beds?
Build bunk. Thank you.
You're welcome.
But she actually texted me a picture. She had drawn a heart. She's a bit of an artist. And she drawn this heart, like an anatomical heart.
Oh, wow. I can draw a heart, but not an anatomical.
Yeah, no. Like, it was like fancy. And she sent it to me and I was like, oh, that's cool. And she's like, no. I drew this before I started coming to Central, and I didn't know what it meant. And then at Central Live, we were singing Rebel Heart, and everything just clicked. Like, it all made sense. And, like, I could see clearly, and I'm getting chills while I'm talking to her, because I'm like, only God knows. Like, only God goes to such extent, like, such great length to, like, connect with every single person. I just think it's so cool that we get, like, a front row seat as a team of volunteers and staff to just like connect with these people on a weekend, just see what God will do.
Yeah, and that brings up a good point. Just at First Step, I brought up, I'm telling all these new graduates, which we had 2 full rooms this last Saturday night at Henderson, and I'm looking at all of them, telling them that when you serve, like you get a front row seat to seeing like all the life change that God is doing. Like you get your own VIP experience here at Central of being right in front of those people walking through the doors that just need a rescue. And so I have, I know I'm constantly reminding myself, I know volunteers, I know how much you guys put in, how much time and effort and energy, and you just do it to serve your church and serve God. And I just hope you're always, you never lose the heart of just being so grateful that we get to do this. Like it's a privilege to do this, and especially to do it at a church like Central where you can just sense God's hand and God's favor and his blessing on the life change we see daily and weekly.
Yeah, the past few times that Pastor Herbert's been here, he opens up his message saying that. And I think the first time I heard him say it, it was like, not including this time, but like 2 messages ago where he's like, don't take for granted what's happening at Central. He's like, this is not normal.
Right.
What's happening here is not what you see at other churches around the country.
Good.
Yeah.
It's so true.
Yeah, that's good.
That's great. Well, I think you shared a little bit of one, but what do you guys have for application time? What do you have that you're either applying into your own life or that you would suggest one of these guys try out in theirs?
Okay, it might be a little bit radical and a little dramatic of me, but this
Radical.
is what
That's perfect for the 90s.
Oh, nailed it.
Hey.
It might be bodacious.
Oh, I've dated myself. Okay, anyway, when I was kind of just thinking on Pastor Herbert's point about surround yourself with God's people and God's presence. I was noticing, and I kind of felt this right before I got, or right before Hannah was born, 7 months ago, that I spend a lot of time on Instagram, and how I know that is if you look on your battery percentage in your settings, you can tell which app you spend the most time on. So it's like mail, photos, and Instagram are like my top 3. So I was noticing, I was feeling overwhelmed by all the stuff like in my timeline that I scroll through, or the stories. Like I could get sucked in for like half an hour just going through everything, and then I started realizing that I'm missing a lot of like the lives of the people that I actually know, because I'm following accounts like stores like Express. I followed Jimmy Fallon, celebrities, things like that. So back right before Hannah was born, I started unfollowing certain accounts that I was like, okay, I just need to just start decluttering a little bit. After his message on Saturday, on Sunday, I started going back through and re-looking at that, and really honing in on like, okay, who or which accounts should I actually follow that are going to speak life and encourage me and uplift me. So I unfollowed a lot of, like celebrity accounts. I unfollowed Express, which was really hard for me because I love that clothing store.
Wow.
Sorry, Express. And I started following a lot of pastors, female speakers that I haven't been following, not realizing I haven't been even following them. Yeah. So that when I open it, it's either like my people that I see constantly that are in my like friendships right now, my family, or I'm opening it and seeing like a verse of the day or a motivational thought of the day, as opposed to buy this outfit you can't afford.
Right. No, that's really good.
Yeah.
That's awesome. For me, it was just this idea to pray for, to seek out just a new level of confidence in your calling, just feeling good with yourself and knowing that it's where you're at, where you're at now, where you're gonna go, where you're coming from. Like it all is gonna stem from a happiness side and a contentment side on one thing only, and that's just diving in, staying rooted in the Word and leaning on God to give you your rest, God to give you your purpose and calling. And specifically the way that sprung out of the story, we started getting into it with the whole Jacob and Esau dynamic. I actually kind of bumbled what I was saying earlier, because this other idea that flows throughout Scripture is that oftentimes God doesn't use the one that you would expect in all of these stories. You can go through start to finish. I think I actually said that Esau killed Jacob.
You did.
I was talking about Cain and Abel at that time, but it was because that was fresh on my mind. All these duos throughout the Old Testament. So there's Cain and Abel. Cain's the older brother, and that ends up killing Abel, or the one that kind of had the promise at the time. Anyway, so there's Cain and Abel, Jacob and Esau, and it just continues on. The kings, like everyone wanted Saul, the big, tall, strong king, but it was David, the one who was just the young, way too young shepherd boy. Surely God wouldn't use him to make a difference. Like he's just a kid, right? So it doesn't matter how old you are. It doesn't matter. Like you're probably in a better position to be used in a greater way if you aren't the obvious choice. So don't feel like you got to change yourself to fit the mold of the leader or fit the mold of the hero ever. Like it's almost like, no, be confident and rooted in what you're at and just pray for God's leading. So anyway, for me, I'm trying to relook at I find that I typically lean into what's the one thing I can see myself in the future, just because of what I naturally think that I look like or fit like, or maybe I just need to not worry about that at all. Just focus on my relationship with God, be open to anything and everything, because at the end of the day, he's probably going to use me in a more unlikely way than I'm thinking about right now. Otherwise, it's my plan and not his plan. So anyway, that's my 2 cents.
Good.
Jay Cho, what do you know?
Which, Brandon, Esau, he wanted to kill Jacob.
He wanted to, right?
So you were
totally off.
I mean, I know, with 100% certainty, even when I was saying it earlier, I'm like, wait, what? Obviously, Jacob's for sure not dead. He's the line
Yeah, he's still got to go wrestle with God, bro.
So I don't know how that got twisted.
And birth all those sons.
Right.
Surprise
Sons
ending.
on sons on sons.
On sons. I don't know that feeling.
Brandon,
Neither does Cho.
Yeah, Joe's got sons in his future, though. I'm going to prophesy today. Jason, you will be the father of 3 boys.
Oh my goodness.
I received that. And I got to text Angela real quick.
What's your application, Cho?
What you're saying, Brandon, really resonates with me. I think I've heard it said before that God doesn't call the qualified, he qualifies the called.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of times we look at ourselves and we think, well, I'm not good enough, or I don't have those skills, or I'm not like that, or my story's a little messier than everyone else's. I'm not sure if God could or would want to use me. But that's what I love so much about like our Henderson volunteer team. Like you look around and you see all the different people serving from all different backgrounds, all different nationalities. And it's like God's doing something incredible here. And I think that's so inspiring. For me personally, whenever I hear talks like this, and especially after this weekend, because Pastor Herbert Cooper did like just smash me in the face.
It.
Yeah, it was crazy. It has me thinking about the difference between sacrifice and investing. Like sacrifice is when we give something up, but investing is when we give something up because we have a full expectation to get something better in return.
Yeah.
And I think when we serve, especially in a volunteer role or in a lot of our capacities, it can be thankless a lot of the times. It can be frustrating. It can be stressful. We can get chewed out by people that we're just trying to serve and help. But then I think, man, like at some point this person's going to get it. You know, this person's going to hear what Pastor Judd has to say, or whoever's speaking that weekend has to say, and this might be the turning point where they actually get it and their life makes a change. So with a smile, with a hug, with a high five, we're going to do our best always, just because we're investing. We're not sacrificing. We're investing in God's kingdom.
Yeah.
So that's kind of what I felt. And even in my own personal life, I'm not a gym rat by any means, but I got up at 4 a.m.
I saw that on your Instagram.
I went to the gym today. Thank you, Herbert Cooper. My wife thanks you.
She thinks you're crazy.
Yeah, actually, she thinks I'm crazy. She doesn't see the results yet. She's more instant gratification.
She doesn't see your future.
Yeah, my
future
future body's
blessing.
like super chiseled, washboard abs. I keep telling her, she just doesn't believe it.
Yeah, just wait for the future.
Yeah, she doesn't have the eyes of faith.
Oh my
Planet
goodness.
Fitness does. They've got my $10
It's
a
a
month.
hunk-free zone. So. Lunk-free zone.
Well, I'll finish up my application. It's just real, I truly believe, without a shadow of a doubt, that someone still listening to this podcast is getting ready to settle either out of tiredness or because they want instant gratification, or maybe it's both.
Yeah.
And my word to you right now is just hang on, don't settle. Realize you're tired, find rest, get in God's presence. For a lot of us, the best way that we can combat that desire to just settle is just wake up in the morning, the first 10 minutes of your morning. Like just wake up 10 minutes earlier. I know for some of us that's hard, but if you don't have the margin right now in the morning, whatever you would have set your alarm for, just make it 10 minutes earlier and just get into God's word and get before him for just 10 minutes and let that set your day. I promise you, you're going to think that you're not getting as much rest because you're getting up 10 minutes earlier, but you will feel so much more rested throughout your day than that 10 more minutes of sleep would have gotten you. So just try to do that for a week and find me in the lobby this next weekend and tell me I'm wrong if I'm wrong. But I don't feel like I'm wrong.
Can I do 2 applications? Can I do one more to tag onto yours?
Yeah.
Tag it.
Get into a group. Like as an introvert and someone who has a full calendar, like it's really hard for me to commit to that. And I've finally done it. And honestly, like if the 2 pieces are to immerse yourself in God's presence and God's people, like that is the best way to do it. Like create a group with people on your volunteer teams, or ask Nikki if there's a specific type of group you want to be a part of, Nikki McMullen. You got to do it.
Good. Yeah.
Great.
I love that.
And when you're coming
Be in
this
community
weekend,
with people.
and when you're seeking us out and finding us, I hope that you're wearing your 90s gear, because Nick and I are going to be full on, folks. Full on 90s. We don't want to be alone. Thank you to those of you guys who picked up like those fanny packs and visors. That was awesome. But this weekend, this weekend, straight off the presses from DJ Travis, is it's bring your own neon, and we'll supply the slap bracelets. Ooh. So it's neon and slap bracelets. Boys and girls, let's get 90's'd.
Come to church this weekend and get slapped.
Yeah, that's a great way to...
It's a great way to shock and bite people on your social media.
Ding dong your neighbors. When they come to the door, just be like, yo, do you want to get slapped on Sunday morning or Saturday in the 5 o'clock-ish time? Come to my church, get slapped.
My church wants to slap you.
All right, we're not the outreach jingle people, it sounds like. Joe, how would you do that in a better way?
Outro?
Yeah, sure.
Meow.
Oh my God.
What just happened? On that note.
So we'll stick to Romans 8.
That's probably good.
No matter if you're trying to settle this weekend, if you're tired, if you want instant gratification, if you can't see the future blessing, or someone's trying to slap you with the bracelet, hold on to Romans 8. If God is for us,
Who can be against us?
Have a great week, guys.
See ya.
Love ya.